Hi, and I am Mackenzie. And as I'm here to give you updates on our ministerial vouchers, Agape Fund, and the homeless shelter, which are all ministries that work together, I really want this to be a message of thanks and gratitude to all of you and First Lutheran Church for your continued support of these social justice ministries. Like Laurel mentioned, First Lutheran has been helping people for years. When I first started working here, I was impressed with the ministerial voucher program that the Detroit Lakes area churches fund to help assist people in emergency need. This program allows us to help issue vouchers with a limited monetary amount for items like gas, clothing, food, and emergency hotel stays. Hotel vouchers have been issued to guests who have been stranded in DL, needing to escape unsafe living situations, or for individuals who are living in cars to escape the cold. This is a great ministry that will remain, and you should be proud that First Lutheran contributes and assists individuals in need with these vouchers. This shows the compassion and collaboration between so many churches here. These ministerial vouchers are amazing, but they're also limited to certain items. This is where your First Lutheran Church Agape Fund has helped with other barriers people have experienced being in crisis. Your donations to the Agape Fund help people purchase new tires, assist with electricity bills, pay to fix leaking pipes. Many individuals are also missing vital documentation when they come to seek help. You help buy birth certificates, driver's license, social security cards, paying for a month cell phone bill so that they can make and receive those calls for employment and housing. Thank you for your gifts to allow us to bridge a gap for many individuals. Our newest ministry is our DL Overnight Emergency Shelter. For those of you who are in attendance today, you notice the shelter intake area that is set up. We had a guest stay here the last 3 nights. All of you here at First Lutheran Church made this possible, and you need to be thanked. The grant that we received helps us provide more than the one night of shelter. We have witnessed that it takes an individual with little to no barriers about 2 weeks to secure employment, and then another 2 weeks to receive their first paycheck. For someone who had nothing in savings, this is a huge financial burden. Now the individuals who have poor rental history or maybe a criminal background have a harder time securing jobs and housing, so their length of stay might be longer. Prior to us being established as a shelter and receiving the grant, our shelter process was a brief intake here in the office, securing a hotel for one night. If more than one night was needed, we referred them to Mahubi, and if they were unable to support at the time, we helped the individual with a bus ticket to a different city to secure long-term shelter. We were not able to keep them here in DL due to lack of funding to support longer care. This becomes a problem when they have children in the area or have other healthy community support connections already in place. Now, because we are an emergency shelter, the shelter intake is a bit more detailed. And like Pastor Joe said, the shelter process is working how it was designed. The individuals come into the office and we sit down with them and ask about their situation. We find out about their shelter needs and how we can help. They complete a homeless intake questionnaire, sign releases of information that help us talk to agencies like Mahubi, Becker County Resource, Lakes Crisis Center, the police department, and other agencies. After meeting with the individuals, we work with a local hotel who has been a great support for us to secure a room. We then refer the individual to housing intake at Mahubi in hopes that they can be accepted into a program for more assistance. If the hotel is full and if we have volunteers on site at the church, we then have guests stay either in the library or the conference room for overnight, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. If the individual does not have any healthy connections to the Detroit Lakes area and has more needs that a full staff shelter facility can provide, we do our best to shelter them here until a bed opens up at a specific shelter. All of our guests, whether it's here or at the hotel, have appreciated the home-cooked meals provided by so many of you. You have handed out about 125 frozen meals like soup and hot dishes. Also baked goods like cookies, muffins, and cinnamon rolls. One young child says, "This is the best chicken dumpling soup I have ever had, and it is always requested when I deliver meals." Another gentleman said, "I don't remember the last time I had a cooked meal, as I always have to buy something to eat cold or microwavable instead." Those warm meals have brought many smiles to many people this year. You and other community members from other churches have come together to provide shelter, quilts, quarters for laundry, shelter supplies, clothes, hygiene kits, toothbrushes, and so much more. I want to say thank you personally to Relief Bed. It's an organization who provides mattresses and supplies specifically to homeless organizations. They donated mattresses and pillows, and I personally slept on one in between a night shift here, and it is so comfortable. I'm glad we're able to provide that comfort to our guests. You are helping with cooking, shopping, running errands, and washing laundry. Thank you to our overnight volunteers. We have 32 volunteers who have been trained to work overnight. Our community needs to be proud. Since November of 2020 to right now, we have helped 31 households for a total of 220 nights. After this Wednesday, when 2 households with children here move into permanent housing and 1 individual being able to financially sustain his own shelter, we are down to 4 individuals who we will be working with to provide the care they need. Whether we shelter the guest here or at the church, we provide frequent follow-ups with them to make sure they are making the connections with jobs and other agencies and taking care of their health care needs. The best part of this ministry is to hear how much the guests have appreciated the help and care they receive. To sit with these individuals on the first day, seeing them arrive to the church with only the clothes on their back or the hospital gown from walking from the ER, to having them cry when they're faced with the possibility of having to pull their children from school to relocate to a different shelter in a different city is heart-wrenching. I have sometimes had no words, but just sit there and cry with them instead. People come to us at their lowest point, and they are sometimes just seeking for someone to care about them and believe that they can succeed. Individuals call us with updates, and those are the best. They call about a job interview, finding a support group in town, keeping their sobriety, about securing jobs and housing. One lady recently called me to tell me that getting arrested was the best thing that happened. The police officer was kind. The individual sobered up in jail, and the police officer drove her here to the church. You, First Lutheran, provided clothes, shelter, food, and helped her secure her transportation to get to a shelter to help her with all her other needs. She cried as she left our church doors, but it was a different cry. It was a cry of relief to be going on a different path in life. Pastor Laurel prayed with her, and she keeps that prayer bookmark in her wallet and looks at it every day. She has since secured her own apartment and been clean since the middle of December. She survived a horrific car accident during a snowstorm a month ago, which she probably shouldn't have been able to walk away from. Normally, the pain would have brought her back to using again, but instead, she remembered all the people that believed in her, and she was proud of how far she had come. So she called her support group and never used. She said if it weren't for First Lutheran's help and believing in her recovery, she thinks she would be dead. Their apparent love of Jesus is remarkable in the guests we see, and you will witness this in the handwritten letter I'm going to end with. He wrote this letter sitting at the desk in the hotel room that you provided him. This is for you all. To the blessed and loving people of the First Lutheran Church of Detroit Lakes, I would like to start this message of love and appreciation to the people in the congregation. My name is Zach, and I write this message of love and appreciation as a brother in Christ through godly humility and love for all. I believe in the heart, the voice, and the hand of Christ. I recognize the many ways that he blesses and uses his channels, his many ways and channels to bless his people. And I believe that blessing and godly love must flourish for the world to draw its strength and energy to go around. And I believe that's what the Church of First Lutheran did for me, through the hand of Christ Jesus in his love and mighty grace. A month ago, until now, I was on my journey of life and my personal path. I had been going through a struggle of homelessness, loneliness, and a lack of solid direction. All I knew was survival, and I wasn't ashamed. I knew deep down in my heart that as long as I had a day's worth of work and I could use my effort to make a better day, then I'd be okay. I endured the struggles of life, understanding that help would come. I just didn't know how or when. One day when I went to Detroit Lakes to find a discreet place to sleep, where I could have peace to sleep in discreetness. The temperatures were getting pretty cold. I had went to sleep and I was awakened by a kind officer who referred me to First Lutheran, to a warm, nice, and loving people who welcomed me like a stranger in the night. I know that helpful deeds, anonymous hands of blessedness of the people, and grand character and hospitality go unanswered and unrecognized or unappreciated. And I'm here to tell you, the Church of First Lutheran and its people has blessed me in more ways than I could ever imagine. I had contacted the office for help, and it seems as the Lord had sent his hand, the people of First Lutheran and its office staff. They immediately helped me with warm gloves for the cold, my hands and hand warmers, hygiene, and food. I was in a situation living in my car, and with the cold temperatures out, I didn't know how long that I would last and how I was going to take my next shower. As beautifully and unexpected that it could happen, they helped put me in a room so that I could shower, sleep, draw my strength to work, and I just truly warmly appreciated it so kindly. You, the church, have helped me with food, shelter, hygiene, gas on different occasions so that I could get to work, to go get groceries, to eat, to go to the gym, to work out my body, and most importantly, to work. I am most grateful and thankful for all the extensive help that you have done for me, referred me to the services and resources in the area for help, helped me keep my phone on to get in contact with people for my health and work. You bless me so many ways. You also extended the time in my room so that I could finish my work, do my study, and save up my money. I am more than awed at the many hands of the church that has been used to bless me and all the other people who have encountered struggles as I have, or who have walked down worser paths than I have. I know that you all cannot see me right now, but I send my love and prayers to all the people of First Lutheran Church, and my message of love and appreciation to the people unseen and who have discreetly and anonymously helped me. Hopefully you all will see me soon, as when I have time off, I'll come to a service. With love and grace and humility, thank you, Zach.
Thank you, Mackenzie. And now with all of that, I want to affirm you based on a text that was read earlier in the worship service from Exodus. I want us to be led into thinking of this sheltering ministry in relation particularly to the Ten Commandments. First, though, the Ten Commandments in general. Let's get one thing straight about the Ten Commandments. The commandments are not a ladder to heaven. They are not a behavioral obstacle course to complete or a way of earning gold stars to build up our resume to be accepted by God. And how do we know this? Basic sequence of events in the Bible. Because God enters into a covenant and loves and saves God's people all before the Ten Commandments are even given. Remember, God chooses and frees and saves the Israelites from Egypt before the commandments are even a thing. For more proof on that, hear this song of Moses from the book of Exodus, the 15th chapter. The Lord is my strength and my might, and he has become my salvation. In your steadfast love, God, you led the people whom you redeemed. That declaration happens in Exodus 15. The commandments are given in Exodus 20. So God promises to be our God, like God promises to be their God and salvation before the Ten Commandments. So then, if the Ten Commandments are not meant to earn our salvation or earn God's love and acceptance, what are they for? The Ten Commandments are for structuring the well-being of our communities. And they are for guiding us into making our neighbor's life better. They are instructions for how to live as God's already chosen and redeemed and beloved people. So now, with regard to our sheltering ministry, let me lift up the seventh commandment specifically as a way to affirm what we are doing with this ministry. The seventh commandment, you shall not steal. Now, that seems basic, and it is. But this commandment is so much more than simply not taking what isn't yours. For instance, Martin Luther was so adamant about this in his small and his large catechisms. He explains how every commandment, or nearly every commandment, like the seventh, has two parts. It has a passive side and an active side. In other words, there is a don't do this part of each commandment, and then there is and instead do this part of the commandment. For instance, do not kill, and instead improve and protect your neighbor's life. So accordingly, I always tell my confirmation students, you don't live into the full call of the commandment if you just happen to refrain from killing someone today. Rather, as Luther hammers over and over again, the commandments call us into an active life of serving and protecting our neighbor's life. So when it comes to the seventh commandment, Luther says in his small catechism, and some of you perhaps remember this, we are to fear, respect, and love God so that we do not take our neighbor's money or property or get them in any dishonest way, but instead help them to improve and protect their property and their means of making a living, end quote. This is to say, the commandments are not only about avoiding behaviors, they are about simultaneously helping people live better. And Luther was fiery about this understanding, especially when it came to the seventh commandment. Just listen to this from Luther's lesser-known large catechism, where he has this to say about people who have a lot of something, but hoard it and fail to share it with those in a special need. This is what he has to say to them. May your grain spoil in the barn. May your beer spoil in the cellar. Your cattle perish in the stall. Yes, your entire hoard ought to be consumed by rust so that you will never enjoy it. Passionately, Luther was saying that if we have more than enough of something, and we are not sharing it for the improvement of our neighbor's life, then we are stealing in direct violation of God's seventh commandment. So what I am getting at here, folks, is that with our sheltering ministry, we are living into the call of God's seventh commandment. We are living into the active side of the law by finding ways, creative ways, to share what we have for the well-being of our literal neighbors. We are living into the call of Lutheran theology in a bold and radical way, and it is working. More than 30 households, Mackenzie said. Over 220 nights for people, for men, and for women, and for children, who on those nights perhaps would have had nowhere else to go. In some cases, our ministry, this ministry, has been a matter of life and death. So what I'm trying to say is that your generosity matters. So all that, 10 Commandments to Luther, I simply want to affirm you. God has redeemed you. God has established an eternal covenant with each of you, and Christ has set you all free. And our sheltering ministry is a way that we are actively responding to that and actively living into the call of God's commandments and into the fundamentals of our Lutheran faith. And if you needed any more affirmation than that, here's more. One of the most convicting things I have ever heard about churches is a quote from the South African bishop Desmond Tutu. He said, every church should be able to get a letter of recommendation from the poor in their community. With that unbelievable letter that Mackenzie just read, you all just received a letter of recommendation. So God bless you, and God bless this ministry. And where does it go from here? I'm not exactly sure, but we do know where we have been. We know what the needs of our neighbors in this county can be. We know where the gaps have been exposed and where we, First Lutheran, can help fill in. We know the contours of our biblical commandments and our Lutheran faith. And after hearing Mackenzie, we know now what our generosity is capable of.